NASCAR just confirmed 2 replacements in the same weekend. Zilisch is out of the San Diego O'Reilly race, and his seat is going to someone who has switched cars 13 times in 18 races. Meanwhile, Christopher Bell is racing with a fractured wrist on a brand new military base street circuit, and an 18-year-old with 0 Cup experience is sitting in that garage ready to take his wheel the moment things go wrong. Let us start with the setting, because what is happening this weekend in San Diego is not just another race on the NASCAR calendar. For the first time in the history of the sport, NASCAR is racing inside an active United States military base. Naval Base Coronado in San Diego, California is now home to the Qualcomm Circuit, a brand new temporary street layout measuring 3.4 miles across 19 turns, built specifically for this weekend's events. There is no historical data on this circuit. There are no prior laps from any driver at any level. Every single competitor who showed up to Naval Base Coronado this weekend arrived on completely equal footing. And that fact alone makes this one of the most unusual race weekends NASCAR has organized in years. The weekend opened with the Truck Series taking the inaugural green flag on Friday night in the Navy. 250 Lane Riggs, who enters San Diego leading the Truck Series championship by 26 points over Caden Honeycutt. After winning 2 of the last 3 races, had the most to lose on a circuit where nobody had any prior experience. Jimmie Johnson made his first Truck Series start in 17 years this weekend, adding significant local weight to an already historic event. Jamie McMurray also returned to competition, giving the grid another driver with Cup-winning authority, but very little recent mileage in a truck. Both Johnson and McMurray faced the same challenge as every title contender, learning the Qualcomm circuit from scratch with no soft opening and no runway. The Cup Series conducted its only practice session on Friday, a 50-minute window that served as the entire team's introduction to the circuit at race speed. That single session was all any Cup team would get before Saturday qualifying and Sunday's race. What made that practice data even more limited is the fact that not a single driver in the field completed a 10-lap consecutive average during the session. Teams went into Saturday qualifying with no reliable long-run data, no clear picture of tire degradation, and no understanding of how traffic would affect lap times around the 3.4-mile layout. 3 open teams entered the Cup event: 23XA Racing with Corey Heim, Trackhouse Racing with Kevin Magnussen, and Legacy Motor Club with Jimmie Johnson. Now to the practice results, because the timing sheet from Friday's Cup session told a story of its own. Kyle Larson, driving the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, went to the top of the board at the end of the session with a lap of 2 minutes and 16.588 seconds at a speed of 89.630. That made Larson the first driver to set a genuine Cup Series benchmark at Naval Base Coronado, and it came 0.293 seconds ahead of Todd Gilliland in second place for Front Row Motorsports. Ty Gibbs was 3rd fastest, Connor Zilisch was 4th, and Carson Hocevar completed the top 5. Shane Van Gisbergen, who many observers had identified as the driver most likely to dominate a street circuit of this nature, given his background, could only manage 8th. Fastest in the session, Austin Hill, who is driving the Richard Childress racing car vacated by the late Kyle Busch, was notably 9th fastest. Championship leader Tyler Reddick ended the session in 11th, while Denny Hamlin was 14th, and William Byron was 15th, Ryan Blaney was 18th, Bubba Wallace was 20th, and Chase Elliott was 21st. Kevin Magnussen, the Danish Formula One veteran making his NASCAR Cup Series debut this weekend, clocked in 29th fastest. Magnussen also made contact with the wall on 2 separate occasions during the session, bouncing off the right side of his Chevrolet in turn 16 and then the left side in turn 1. Sunday will mark his official NASCAR debut at the Cup level. Qualifying for the Underall 250 is set for Saturday at 2:30 p.m. at night, with Larson going out 37th in the order, followed by Reddick and Hamlin. The race itself is scheduled for Sunday at 4:00 p.m. on Amazon Prime Video. Now to the story that has dominated the Cup Series conversation heading into this weekend: Christopher Bell and what happens to the number 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota on Sunday. On June 7th, Bell suffered a fractured left wrist in a high-speed crash at Michigan International Speedway, making heavy contact with the outside retaining wall after a collision with Chase Elliott's number 9 Chevrolet. He was medically cleared to compete at Pocono Raceway the following weekend and completed all 400 miles of that race. His wrist was rewrapped this week after the cast lost some of its shape following Pocono, and Bell arrived in San Diego with a newly redone cast on his left wrist. The challenge Bell now faces in San Diego is categorically different from what he managed at Pocono. Pocono is a sweeping, triangular layout that places relatively low physical demand on a driver's wrists and arms. The Qualcomm circuit is a 16-turn street course. The article and NASCAR.com listing the circuit at varying turn counts depending on the source. That demands constant aggressive steering input and places a far greater physical burden on the upper body. Bell himself acknowledged that the high rate of contact observed across all three NASCAR National Series during Friday's on-track activity at the circuit got his attention. Speaking fresh from Friday's Cup practice session, Bell was direct about where things stood. "I don't know. That's going to be a decision that we weigh out as it unfolds. So we haven't made the decision yet. And yeah, I think it's going to be a game-time decision." He added that he and crew chief Adam Stevens would need to sit down and clearly define their goals for Sunday before committing to a plan. Bell's concern going into the race is not his pain tolerance. He has already demonstrated that is not the limiting factor. His concern is that the injury prevents him from being as quick and as aggressive with the steering wheel as the circuit demands. Bell currently sits 10th in the Cup Series standings, 70 points above the playoff cut line. Under NASCAR's rules, all he officially needs to do to receive credit for the result of the number 20 car on Sunday is start the race. Bell also made clear that his primary target is the Chicagoland Speedway race on July 5th, which marks the return to oval track racing after 2 consecutive road courses, San Diego this weekend and Sonoma Raceway the following weekend. "I will say that it is a very high-risk racetrack and I can't afford any setbacks. I'm already 2 weeks into this healing process now, so the goal certainly is to get back to 100% as quick as possible," Bell said. "It's very frustrating. I mean, I really truly hope that we get to come back here, because I had a blast out there racing, and I hope I get to race here at 100% at some point. It's a bummer, but I'm very, very grateful that it's just a couple fractured bones." End quote. With that uncertainty in place, Joe Gibbs Racing put Brent Cruz on standby as Bell's replacement driver for the San Diego weekend. Cruz turned 18 years old in March and is currently competing full-time in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series for Joe Gibbs Racing. He has 0 prior Cup Series experience. His road course resume, however, is already substantial for a driver his age. He finished 6th in his O'Reilly Series debut on a road course at Circuit of the Americas back in March, added another 6th-place finish at Watkins Glen International in May, and finished 2nd at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval in a Craftsman Truck Series race back in October 2025. Across his 9 most recent O'Reilly starts, Cruz has recorded 6 top 5 finishes, including 3 runner-up results. Cruz described the preparation that went into this weekend as hours and hours of work and noted that the San Diego weekend was unique in that both he and the Joe Gibbs Racing team were learning the circuit simultaneously rather than him simply trying to catch up to an established baseline. Near the end of Friday's Cup practice, Cruz got into Bell's number 20 Toyota and turned 4 laps around the Qualcomm circuit. On his very first lap at the circuit, Custer trailed Bell's fastest lap time by only 0.050 seconds. Bell was clear in his assessment of Custer heading into Sunday. "I really think that this is the perfect scenario for Brent coming to a racetrack, where it's an equal playing field for everybody. He's obviously an amazing road course racer. He did great in the simulator, and then practice we're really struggling with our car right now, but he certainly was doing a great job and was on a pretty respectable lap before. He made a mistake late on the lap, so all things considered, I know that he will do really well, and if he races, we're not going to be limited by driver." Custer, for his part, kept things grounded. It sucks for sure, but lucky enough to be able to be friends with Christopher for a while now. We've raced a whole lot of dirt racing together and stuff like that, so being able to just kind of be around and shadow him a little bit more has been cool. I fit in the seat, so hopefully Christopher will be able to be all right and dig through it with his wrist obviously having those issues. He's extremely tough, so I think he is going to be just fine, but I'll be ready if need be. If Custer takes the wheel on Sunday, it will be his official NASCAR Cup Series debut. The second confirmed replacement this weekend involves the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the number 1 JR Motorsports Chevrolet, Zilisch, who moved up to the NASCAR Cup Series full-time with Trackhouse Racing this season, has been returning to JR Motorsports throughout 2026 on a part-time basis. 7 appearances so far this season. He won at Bristol, Motor Speedway, and Watkins Glen. International in the O'Reilly Series this year following a 10-win rookie campaign a year ago. Last weekend at Pocono Raceway, Zilisch competed in the O'Reilly race and finished ninth. He is expected to return to JR Motorsports for multiple additional races before the season ends, including the following two events at Sonoma Raceway and Chicagoland Speedway. However, Zilisch will not compete in this weekend's O'Reilly race at Naval Base Coronado. The reason is straightforward. Full-time Cup Series drivers are only eligible to compete in Sunday's 75-lap Cup race around the Qualcomm circuit, since the course is new for everybody and the eligibility rule is structured accordingly. That opens the door for Carson Kvapil, who takes over the #1 JR Motorsports Chevrolet for Saturday's United Rentals Driven to Serve. 250 on the CW network at 5 p.m. ET. Kvapil's 2026 season has been defined by extraordinary team and car instability. This weekend marks his 13th car change in 18 races and his 7th consecutive entry switch. He has not run the same car in back-to-back races since April. He has swapped teams 6 times this year already. Despite all of that disruption, Kvapil sits 7th in the O'Reilly Series standings, 94 points above the postseason cut line with 9 top 10 finishes, including 4 inside the top 5. He is still searching for his first career victory. Kvapil made a surprise run to the championship, 4 as a rookie last year, and despite the chaos of his 2026 season, he remains firmly inside the playoff picture. Away from the on-track activity in San Diego, the NASCAR community received a significant piece of news on Thursday, June 18th, when the United States Senate passed a bipartisan resolution honoring the late Kyle Busch. The resolution was sponsored by Democrat Senators Catherine Cortez, Masto and Jackie Rosen alongside Republican Senators Ted Budd and Tom Tillis. It highlighted Busch's career record of 234 wins across all 3 NASCAR National Series, 63 in the Cup Series, 102 in the O'Reilly Series, and 69 in the Truck Series. Busch won 2 Cup Series championships and 1 O'Reilly Series title before passing away from bacterial pneumonia and complications with sepsis. The resolution read in part that Busch earned the respect of both opposing drivers and fans through his commitment to providing thrilling entertainment to NASCAR crowds. With his performative driving style, he embraced his role as a champion driver and devoted father, proudly mentored and coached his son Brexton, who began his own journey in motorsports and helped to foster the passion for racing in the next generation. Quaint. The House of Representatives had previously honored 7-time Cup champion Jimmie Johnson and the late Dale Earnhardt in similar fashion. Kyle Busch now sits in that company. Braxton Busch recently competed in the summer shootout at Charlotte Motor Speedway weeks after his father's passing. His uncle, Hall of Famer Kurt Busch, was present to cheer him on. Kyle's father, Tom Busch, led a ceremonial lap behind the wheel of his son's number 51 legend car at the same event. Samantha Busch shared a deeply personal account on Instagram, describing 2 moments that brought her a sense of peace. She recalled waking unable to sleep and walking into the bathroom where a rainbow was shining directly across Kyle's sandals, nowhere else in the room, only across his sandals. She wrote that she laid down on them and felt peace as he was giving her a sign. At her church, she described a bird flying around during an entire service, eventually flying over to where she was sitting, tilting its head sideways, looking directly at her, and then flying away before returning to hop around her feet. The NASCAR community rallied behind Samantha with an outpouring of support following the post. This weekend in San Diego, Austin Hill is behind the wheel of the Richard Childress racing car that Kyle Busch once drove, and the United States Senate has now placed Busch's name alongside Dale Earnhardt and Jimmie Johnson in the formal record of those the House and Senate have chosen to honor. The sport moves forward, but it does not move on.